things are only going to get worse for Blake Lively from here.
I think there was a willingness on her part to consider settlement and resolving it.
There's no audience for Blake Lively. She tried to blame that all on Justin, but it was really her own.
Okay, so listen. Megyn Kelly and Brian Friedman are recently teaming up to expose exactly how Blake Lively used her recent appearance at the Met Gala to try and pulling off the total cover-up. And let me tell you something from my own experience. You can buy a spot at Gala through your connections, but you can't buy back your reputation.
Rarely do you see satisfaction at the end of a lawsuit. Rarely do you see, okay, gee, I got back everything I put out. Everything is now clarified. Everything is now cleaned up. You don't get that at the end of a...
Now, if you don't know Brian Friedman, he's one of those lawyers who states what he sees. And he sees through the lies that most of us would never even notice. He's been tracking this case from the beginning, and he was there in the room when the settlement dropped. And Megyn Kelly, she's the true one here because while the fashion magazines were writing love letters to Blake Lively's comeback, Megyn was doing what she does best, cutting through all fluff and asking the questions that really matter.
Who let it dictate her life? She filed. She's the one who started this whole thing. She makes it sound like she was victim.
First things first, I think it's key to grasp why Met Gala was picked by Blake Lively to cover her recent defeat, which came in the form of her no-money settlement with Justin. Now, Met Gala is essentially a worldwide spectacle to me, where the wealthiest people from the world get together to wear outfits that normal people can't afford and can't even comprehend. Also, what I think is that it's not truly about fashion, even though that's what they say us. It's about demonstrating everyone else that these celebs exist on an entirely different level. Laws don't apply to them. They can do anything they want and still end up on front pages the following morning. If you're going to attempt to carry out a cover-up for a court loss, that's precisely the type of stage you need. It is the very out-of-fouch thing you can imagine. And Megyn Kelly does not hold back when she speaks on it.
Night was the 2026 Met Gala, where out-of-touch elites get to show off their bizarre fashion choice.
So when Blake Lively appeared up that night in her pastel Versace gown, the pictures that came out were very stunning. I'm not going to sit here and claim otherwise. But the thing is, we can't hide the fact that she was standing on those museum steps to tell everyone that her recent resolution doesn't impact her. Look at me. Look at my dress. See how perfect everything is. Don't look at the court documents. Don't look at what the judge said. And frankly, that's exactly what happened. The next day, every magazine was talking about how this was her big return moment. But thanks to people like Kelly and Justin's lawyer, Brian Friedman, the scheme doesn't work as well as it used to.
She could not let this case go to trial. She could not let him cross-examine her. She could not take the stand. She was about to actually become Amber Heard.
Now, picture you're on Blake Lively's team. You've spent years building this notion that you're this courageous fighter fighting against a powerful director. But then your case has just gotten out of your hand because there is not enough evidence to support your claims. What do? Well, you need some cover-up that makes everyone forget what they read in the court documents. And that's exactly when the settlement announcement came up. The joint statement between Blake and Justin was released to the media on Monday, May 4th. This was the exact same day as the Met Gala. And while that news was breaking across television screens all over the world, Blake Lively was enjoying with her team while getting her hair and makeup done. Now, I'm an individual who believes in coincidences. Bad things happen at bad times. Sometimes the universe just doesn't cooperate. But this isn't a coincidence. This is a masterclass in how to save your image orchestrated by Blake herself. Justin's lawyer saw this moment, and when he was asked about her showing up at the Met Gala, he didn't play nice and mocked her decision.
A-list Hollywood talent wasn't there and hasn't been there in years.
Well, Blake needed a huge platform to change the subject, and the Met Gala was right there at exactly the right moment. And here's the fascinating part. The deal itself, it offered her completely nothing in terms of money. No admission of misconduct from Justin. It was simply an exit strategy. She took whatever was on the table just so she could walk that red carpet without having to answer questions about an active, ongoing lawsuit. But here's the thing. The timing of her settlement and Met Gala appearance, as damaging as they are, only tell a small part of the story. But the genuine A-list Hollywood talent wasn't there and hasn't been there in years. Megyn Kelly does not see a courageous woman fighting for justice. She sees something completely different. She sees a person who has figured out how to use the most powerful shield you can possibly have to safeguard your image. And you and I both know who has been using that thing to avoid any accountability for her own behavior. Now, there's a term Megyn Kelly throws out here which suggests how people like Blake create certain situations around themselves because they need to be seen as someone who needs help and care.
Tries to make something bad happen to her. She insists that she has to be a victim because something terrible's happened to her.
Think about how this thing works in real life. If someone stands up and says, "I was abused," what happens?
People support them.
The media covers their story with sympathy. Anyone who questions them or pushes back gets criticism. And that's what Blake Lively did here. She tried to present herself as blameless. And the moment she did that, she made it impossible for anyone to challenge her allegations. That's an incredibly powerful position to be in. And once you have that position, you can essentially do whatever you want because nobody is allowed to hold you accountable for your own actions.
He wrested his movie away from him and decided to try to hurt him with petty, made up, out of context.
From what you have heard, Megyn Kelly is completely turning the narrative on its head. For months, the story we were told was that Blake was someone who had to push back against powerful forces trying to silence her. Kelly is saying no because in reality, the evidence shows Blake was the one creating the environment through behind-the-scenes strategies. And this analysis fits exactly with everything that came out in those text messages. The 17-point demands the threats to walk away from the movie project, calling herself a monster with famous friends who could attack anyone who crossed her. Ryan Reynolds allegedly sent texts calling Justin something that I don't even wish to mention here. Megyn Kelly even ridiculed the fake public image that Blake Lively works so hard to maintain.
She's just trying to give you the adjectives she wants you to repeat about her because she has not those.
That's such a spot-on observation from Kelly. The woman desperately wants everybody to call her brave, strong, and a creative mastermind. But here's the thing. If you have to dictate your own praise through PR teams just to get people to say positive things about you, that is not strength. That is the opposite of strength. That is very deep insecurity. Wearing a designer dress.
Lively has just proven she does not give a damn about women. She's at the Met Gala. Full gown, looking all fresh, showing off for the cameras after she abandoned her lawsuit that was to protect and fight.
When the lawsuit finally finalized, both sides released a shared statement which said, "Raising awareness and making a meaningful impact in the lives of all survivors is a goal that we stand behind." Now, if you just look at that, it sounds like a positive message. Everyone's supportive. Everything's positive. But I really want to look deeper into that settlement statement because I think a lot of people missed what was actually happening there. Most folks probably read it once, thought it sounded positive, and moved on. But when you really break down the language choices, there's some highly calculated tricks going on. The tiny phrase mentioning survivors wasn't in the original statement that was added specifically at Blake Lively's request. She and her team asked those exact words to be included in this shared communication. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so what? What's the big deal about adding those words? But let me explain. By forcing all survivors into that statement, Blake pushed her own dismissed claims into the exact same category. She took her weak, thrown-out lawsuit allegations about hurt feelings and creative disagreements and said, "Yeah, I'm in that group, too. I'm a survivor just like the women this movie was actually supposed to help." Think about what that does. It puts Blake in the same category as people who have experienced real-world problems. Meanwhile, the judge had already thrown out her core allegations. However, in this statement, she's still managing to position herself as someone who belongs with the real survivors. Well, that to me is a calculated move to make sure that even when she's agreeing to move on and let everything go, she's still included in every category of suffering. Even when a judge said her suffering claims were legally inadequate, Brian Friedman pointed out the irony of the whole situation.
It's taken a toll on domestic violence survivors.
That's such a keen observation. The main point of that movie was to support those survivors. The main point of this lawsuit was about protecting women and standing up for what's right. And at the close of the day, the actual cause got absolutely nothing. No spotlight, no true benefit, no authentic support. The focus simply shifted to the Versace dress and the red carpet photos. The organizations that were meant to be supported by this whole situation got moved fully away, while a Hollywood star fought for creative control and vanity. The cause was a launching stone. It was effective when it helped build the narrative. And the moment it wasn't effective anymore, it was discarded completely.
She's trying to get back with the public, and she does look like a princess. She looks beautiful. It is stunning. She looks like a starburst. But it is very strategic that case was settled today, and now she's at the Met Gala.
The settlement was rushed to conceal a legal defeat. Met Gala was used as a PR stage. The official statement was hijacked to bolster a lawsuit that had nothing to do with actual matters. And now even the joint statement is being made to ensure Blake remains in the victim category no matter what is. But here's the thing. The cover-up can't work on everyone. There's a massive disconnect happening right now between what the glossy magazines are printing and what real people are actually saying. And that's where things get really interesting.
Sony's lawyer, Brian Friedman, had spoken with TMZ yesterday. And while terms of the settlement were not disclosed, when they asked Brian if this was a win for Justin, he did tell them he felt it was a huge victory for him.
After the Met Gala and the settlement announcement, the global publications did exactly what Blake Lively's expensive PR team released the polished photos and wrote the glowing articles about her classic fashion look. They framed the settlement as a strategic, measured decision that allowed everyone to move forward and put the past behind them. That was the story they wanted everyone to believe. And for about maybe 4,868 hours 69, it kind of lasted. But here's what they didn't know. The world has changed. They can pay for positive coverage. They can make sure certain outlets run exactly the stories they want to run, but they cannot control the response anymore.
All this, I mean, she basically dropped the case, settled, no apology, nothing, and she goes to the Met. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
These aren't merely unrelated furious comments. These are people who reviewed everything, who paid attention, who linked the dots. They noticed through the PR spin. They noticed that a magazine cover cannot erase a massive digital footprint. The facts are out there. The court records are public. The text messages are documented. And no amount of Versace chiffon can make those things disappear. The cover-up only works if people actually believe it. That's the whole game. If the fans accept the fake narrative becomes the truth in the public mind. But if the fans refuse to buy what they're selling, the whole thing collapses. And that's exactly what happened here. Thanks to people like Megyn Kelly and Brian Friedman for asking hard questions and presenting the actual evidence.
It hasn't been about the show, and it hasn't been about the misrepresentations. It's been about the facts.
A magazine cover is short-lived. It remains a week, maybe two if someone keeps it on their coffee table. But a record filed in a Manhattan courthouse that remains forever. Anyone can read precisely what a federal judge ruled and why. And that's the matter about truth. It doesn't disappear just because someone shows up to a party wearing an expensive dress there. Whereas Blake Lively was out there buying press space, Justin Baldoni was silently going about his business with evidence and actual legal victories on his side.
I feel like to have, really powerful people in the entertainment community plotting against you through
Justin Baldoni didn't win this case through a media campaign. He didn't pay or buy magazine space or coordinate a scheduled appearance. He won because a district judge looked at the available evidence and ruled that the primary claims against him had no merit under the law. His lawyer has been explicitly clear. He says Justin and his team are ecstatic and extremely happy with the outcome. Multiple reports have verified that $0 were paid to Blake Lively. She got nothing monetarily from this settlement. Interestingly, reports suggest she reportedly paid for that Met Gala appearance with whatever leverage she had left. She bought that moment with the last remnants of a case that had already been dismantled by a judge. And now that those strong restraints are finally off, the greatest revelation of this full story is still yet to come.
The fortunate part of it is this case was pretty much gutted almost completely after the summary judgment motion.
Brian Friedman has already indicated Justin Baldoni is preparing to break silence. He intends to tell his side of the story. He wants to share his perspective on the significant impact this entire process has had on his family, who were drawn in the crossfire of this celebrity feud.
He'll be able to talk about what this does to a family, what this does to feel like you're wrongfully accused of something.
Now, there's growing speculation about what that might actually look like. Justin is known as a documentary filmmaker. He's done films on social issues. He's built a career around telling stories that matter. And there is a strong possibility that he's been documenting this entire situation from the very beginning.
That he is trying to gather with his family and get some semblance of peace.
If he has been quietly gathering proof and assembling a documentary or some form of material about what truly happened here, he has the power to show the world exactly what happens when an out-of-touch celebrity chooses to use their huge platform and their well-known friends to destroy a director. Entirely now, he can show the text messages. He can show the timeline. He can show how the false narrative was created and how the real evidence told a completely different story. His future statements and whatever documentary or project he eventually releases will possibly be the final nail in the coffin of this whole Met Gala cover-up. And the foundation for that future reckoning has already been laid by these two boss people.
It's settled. He's already out of the case.
Brian Friedman and Megyn Kelly have ensured the audience got to see the massive gap between the magazines and the harsh truth sitting in court transcripts. They have ensured people realize that you can buy a headline, but you can't buy back your credibility once it's gone. And they ensured that while Blake Lively was taking her one-night triumph lap, the real story was poised, ready to be revealed in the end now.
The details and we'll see what the agreement looks like and work on that agreement.
You know, I've been sitting here reflecting about everything we've covered so far, and there's one piece of this puzzle I haven't really got into yet. And honestly, it's this thing that makes this whole thing even more complicated than it already was. I'm talking about the other people in Blake Lively's corner. Famous friends, the power network, the people who basically became her personal squad whenever anyone dared to cross her. Now, this wasn't just a lawsuit between two people in the industry. This was a whole operation. And when you've got someone like Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds in your corner, you're not exactly playing by the same rules as everyone else. Think about that for a second. Taylor is arguably the most powerful celebrity on the planet. Her fan base is massive. Her reach is worldwide. And the moment she sides with someone, that person's enemies become targets for millions of people who will flood comment sections and essentially wage digital warfare on anyone who challenges their favorite celebrity. That's a lot of power to have in your back pocket. And then you've got Ryan Reynolds, who's got ties everywhere. And from everything that came out in those text messages, he was more than willing to use all of that to defend his wife. I mean, we saw the texts where he reportedly called Justin Baldoni a lot of things. I'm not going to repeat them here because honestly, they're not worth as our boy Justin has already won the whole thing. But the point is, Ryan was involved in trying to create trouble for this man's reputation. He was participating in what Kelly called a classic takeover tactic. And that's what really bothers me about this whole thing.
Fame and all the trappings of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively and still feel so small that you've got to rally your celeb network to try to ruin this director, Justin Baldoni, who really wasn't planning on doing anything to Blake Lively.
Regular people don't have this option. If you and I get into a dispute with someone, we don't have millions of fans to support us. We don't have celebrity friends who will send hostile texts on our behalf. We don't have the ability to basically weaponize an entire fan base against whoever crossed us, but Blake Lively does. And she basically used it just to get exposed by Kelly and Justin's lawyers. Honestly, it's not just Blake Lively and her cover-up attempt. It's about what this reveals regarding how power works in Hollywood. How celebrity culture creates two different sets of rules. How people with enough fame and enough famous friends can basically operate without consequences for way too long until eventually someone with the resources and the patience decides to fight back through proper channels.
Your box office poison. You did the same thing to yourself that Meghan Markle did to herself. Justin Baldoni will emerge from this.
Blake Lively may have secured her place on those museum steps for a few hours. She may have gotten her photo taken 1 million times and her dress talked about for a full news cycle, but the cover-up failed. The dismissed claims are public record. The text messages exist. The deposition lie is documented, and none of that goes away just because you show up somewhere expensive and sparkly. The true cost of all this will follow her long after the Met Gala lights have dimmed. Because truth has a way of sticking around. It outlasts the fashion. It outlasts the PR campaigns. It outlasts the magazines and the comment sections, and even the next big scandal that distracts everyone for a few weeks. Now, I genuinely want to hear what you guys think. Did you see through the cover-up from the beginning, or did some of the stuff surprise you when you actually looked into it? And where do you think this goes from here? Is there any way Blake Lively comes back from something like this? Or is this the kind of thing that just defines your public image from now on? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this video interesting, hit that subscribe button.
Right now.